to this episode of The Voice on the Iowa blog, broadcast in the evening here in the U.S. Virgin Islands overlooking the Caribbean Sea. Before we return to the Mizmor, the psalm, this being the 103rd, which was devoted to David and is about to speak of his everlasting throne, I want to just talk a little bit about the challenges incumbent in the mission that I have been assigned by God. I'm speaking to a world that has become very comfortable with having erased Yahweh's name, particularly his people. Nothing seems to dissuade them from their hatred of Yahweh, of the name. And of course, within Christian communities, the very fact that Yahweh's name is Yahweh and they don't mention it means that Yahweh has nothing to do with their New Testament or their religion. So they'll reject it out of hand. They want God to be Jesus. They want God to be both the Father and the Son, fully God both ways. It's, of course, total nonsense. And then you have a couple of billion Muslims who want you to believe that Allah is the God who spoke to Moshe and inspired the Torah and the prophets, when that is utter rubbish. And so that's a tough thing to overcome. And without overcoming that, there is no second step. There is no even possibility of reintroducing God's people to him. It all begins with the name, which is why in Yahweh's first meeting with Moshe, he revealed his name and told us this is his one and only name, and even told us how to pronounce his name from the verb that he used to describe it and the book in which we find the guidance regarding it. But it's a very difficult thing to overcome, and without overcoming it, we can't go to the next step. And yet we can't simply focus on this one revelation, which is, here I'm the first person to reintroduce God's name in 2,500 years. It's a significant accomplishment, since I painstakingly explain how one can prove that it is in fact pronounced Yahweh, doing so in the opening volume of an introduction to God, and as part of numerous Yahowah blogs, including a short that I reposted just 2 days ago. And then we go beyond that, and we have to overcome the challenge of the Torah being besmirched in Christianity, discredited, and called the law, and having rabbis go along not only referring to Yahweh's guidance and teaching as law when it is nothing of the sort, but of them replacing it with their Talmud. And so to bring Yahweh's Torah teaching, his guidance, back to the foundation, the core of it all, and to position it correctly as guidance and teaching is difficult. But this must be done for there to be any hope of Israelites coming home. Then there's the challenge of correctly positioning the covenant and explaining that when Yahweh spoke with Abraham, he didn't even meet with him until he had walked away from Babel. He had come out of Babel, demonstrating that the prerequisite for having a relationship with Yahweh is walking away from Babel, which is the commingling and confusion of religion and politics, of truth and lies. And that as you go through the story, you'll find out that there are four other conditions that Yahweh establishes for covenant participation, and this is the narrative that introduces the covenant to us, and that not only do we have to walk away from religion, and which is, of course, anathema to the world, because 90% of the world is religious, and the requirement, the prerequisite for having a relationship with God is not being religious. It's a tough thing to get people to embrace when, as I say, 90% of people are religious, and God discriminates by saying, if you're religious, there is no chance that we're going to have a relationship. And then God asks us to walk to Him and become perfect. And that's the hardest of all to explain, to get people to accept. The problem is that the Christian New Testament, even though it is nothing but a pile of lies, is so ingrained in the culture that when one demonstrates that it is completely untrue and that there never was a Jesus, that Mr. Christ is nothing but a counterfeit of David, along with a heavy dose of Dionysus, and that it is exceedingly easy to disprove the legitimacy of the Christian New Testament, to demonstrate that it is a complete and utter farce, and that it was perpetrated as a farce. And that has to be done, because if that's not done, when you explain that the means to be perfected by God, the second condition of the covenant, is to accept the realization that Dowd came in the second of three lives and served as the Passover lamb, and then fulfilled matzah, with his soul being laden with our guilt, taking it into Sheol, never to be seen again. This is God's plan. This is the purpose. This is how He explained the Exodus beginning, with Pesach providing life, and the lamb of Pesach providing life, and then on matzah there is the separation from the horrors of religion and political oppression. And it is matzah about unyeasting the bread, with yeast being religion and politics. And so when you try to tell people that, their mind is still so cluttered with the Christian myth of a Mr. Christ, of a Jesus, that then their first response is, so you're telling me that David was Jesus? No, I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you that Jesus never existed, and that it's important that you know that He never existed, because it is only then that you're in a position to accept the fact that Dowd lived his second of three lives to accomplish this. And so the burden is to disprove the Christian religion, which I have done. It's just that to get people to embrace it, to accept the evidence that is marshaled against it, to listen to the YAHOWAH blogs on appalling Twistianity, or to read the volumes of Twistianity, is a challenge. And it is only one of many battles that we must win to prevail. And then, for some reason, people have no problem with YAHOWAH taking Elia and knowing that Elijah is going to come back, and therefore he's going to live two lives. No problem with that at all. And they somehow dismiss the fact that the prophets and the Psalms constantly say that Dowd is going to return with YAHOWAH to be king of Israel, and his throne is forevermore, which would require him to have two lives. But a third, oh, that's impossible. They don't even like to talk about Dowd having a second life, which is why in Rabbinic Judaism they have disowned Dowd as the Son of God and the returning Messiah, much less returning king, because they cannot perceive that God would take His cherished son and have him continue to live and work with him in this way. Why? God said so. I mean, have you read the 89th Mizmor? That's what it says. Why can't people process that? Do they believe that God is lying to them when He made all of these statements to them? And so the idea that a person can have more than one life is just way beyond most people. And yet, if we didn't have more than one life, what's the purpose of this one? Why bother with the Torah? Why bother with the prophets? Why bother with anything? Why bother with Passover or matzah? Or why call it firstborn children? Why refer to Shabuah and Towrah as harvest? Why describe Kippurim as a reconciliation of the relationship? For what purpose? If we don't have the opportunity to live beyond this life, if the people who respond to Yahweh's invitation don't have an ongoing opportunity to live, what's the purpose of anything? So you're okay with God giving those who are right with him a second life, but not Dode? Do you think that the creator of the universe is incapable of taking someone's nefesh soul and putting it in another physical body? When he created the language to conceive physical bodies called DNA, and you don't think he can manipulate it? You don't think he can use it? You're saying, "Oh, I'll buy all of the stuff that you're saying, but I'm not gonna go with Dode David having lived another life." So when he wrote about his crucifixion in the 22nd Mizmor, are you thinking that he was crucified in his first life? Or do you think he was just delusional? And if he was delusional, how did he happen to write about a form of death that turned out to be the one used by Rome on this occasion, 700 years before that form of death even existed? Or why Yahweh referred to his son in Zechariah 12, saying that he is returning with the one who was pierced, and you will weep for him as a firstborn. Why is it that everyone needs to make God out to be a liar when he said these very things, affirm them throughout? Rather than accepting what is the greatest discovery in human history, that Dode is not only the Messiah and the Son of God and our former and returning King, that he served as the Passover lamb, and that he fulfilled matzah and Bikurim. And there's even the prophecy in Daniel when Gabriel, which is Dode, God's most capable and competent man, told us the exact time that he would fulfill matzah and Pesach as well. Right there in 33 CE, right in the middle of Chag Matzah, he gives us the date 700 years in advance. And then he did as he said he was going to do. I'm just shake my head and say, I don't know how it is possible that so many people can be wrong and unwilling to trust what God says. But these are all challenges, and they are many. And then the only way for us to prevail is we have to convince Israel to not only stop trusting rabbis, but to denounce them and walk away from them as poison. And then we must convince Israel that you can't win a war by continuing to bomb Hamas, because Hamas is nothing but a symptom. You're bombing a community that is 100% Islamic, just as is Hamas. You can't win the war that way. There's 2.2 million of them. You can't kill them all. And no matter how many are left, Hamas is left, because Gaza and Hamas are the same thing. And so you need to understand that Islam is your enemy. And I've written 5 books for you, taken thousands of death threats as a result, to prepare you for that realization that there is no such thing as a Palestinian, and that your enemy is not Hamas, it's Islam. But you've got to come to that point if you're even going to spare Israel long enough for you to benefit from any of this. It's a very full plate that we have been given. And we need to prevail on all of these planes. We have to convince people that they should trust and rely on Yahowah, the third condition of the covenant. No faith, no beliefs, trust and rely, which means you need to know him. And the only way to know him is to read or to listen or both. And then God says, you need to closely examine and carefully consider the terms and conditions of my relationship agreement. The fourth condition of the covenant. And as a man, you must be circumcised because it's the sign of the covenant. Circumcise your sons on the 8th day so they can remember the covenant. The plan is beautiful. It is woven together majestically. God is an amazing storyteller. He and his son have done such great things for us. And yet the world wants to call God a liar and pretend that all the things that he promised and now has done, that they're not possible. So why bother with any of it? Yahowah, which is the proper pronunciation of the name of our Elohah, God, as directed by his Torah teaching, on our Haya existence and our Shalom reconciliation, has prepared and established, has fashioned and supports his throne. Whose throne? Who was the 103rd Mizmor written about? It says it quite plainly. Dod. It's Dod's throne. In the spiritual realm of the heavens, with his sovereign realm, which means, guess what? Dod is in the sovereign realm of the heavens, and his throne exists there forever because Dod is there forever. And it serves as a proverb. It serves as a revealing word picture that has been drawn so that we might understand this. It's a mashal. Dod wrote the mashal, the Proverbs. It communicates by way of making visual and verbal comparisons to reveal everything. Everything. Mizmor lyrics to sing, Psalm 103:19. While it is true that Yahowah has established his seat of authority in the spiritual realm, since it is his nature to share everything with us, it is Dod, who is his co-worker, who will sit there. After all, the most vivid pictures in heaven and the kingdom of Dod were painted by the author of this mashal, of every mashal, as well as this Mizmor is written about him. And therefore, this could have been written and is to be interpreted that his is lowercase as it pertains to God's Son. Somebody today saying, oh, God's Son is Israel. The children of Israel were presented as the children of Israel, but clearly Yahowah said that they are no longer his children. That's what it says in Hosea, doesn't it? And Beni is plural. When Yahowah speaks of Dod, he says, he is my son, singular. And it always is in the context of Dod's name being presented, and I am his father. Now, of Dod's royal reign, that's what this is speaking of. It is a sign that we should expect Dod back. It's what is said in 2 Samuel 7. It is what is said in the 89th Mizmor. It is what's said in the first 30 Psalms. It is what's said in Zechariah. It's everywhere. Dod's throne is eternal because Dod's soul is eternal. Now, painting pictures with words is something which Dod was particularly adept, as was his father. And often it is the best way to convey what we would otherwise not perceive from our current perspective. And heaven is a perfect example, using terms common to our three-dimensional existence, Yahweh's prophets have tried to describe its spectacular appearance. But quite frankly, just as the fourth dimension is beyond our comprehension, so is the seventh, far beyond our current comprehension. It's as far removed from what we can perceive as three dimensions are from seven. That being the case, Yahweh shared something which can help us visualize the unseen. Aspects of the Garden of Eden were modeled after heaven. Consider what happened there, especially the interactions between Yahweh and Adam, and the uh, and then expand, if you will, the boundaries of that garden to the size of the universe, 93 billion light years across, or some such measure. We don't know anymore, but that was the original measure. This provides a glimpse of what we will experience when we camp out with Yahweh and other covenant members throughout the time of the celebration of Sukkah and beyond. We'll still be guided by his words, even by his Torah teachings, which will then be integrated within us so that we can make good and sound decisions. And we're still going to observe the Shabbat. We're still going to attend the Mikra, celebrating both as they were intended. But we will no longer have to endure any form of religion or politics, lies or liars, abuse or abusers. Just as we are afforded the option of assigning heaven's throne and kingdom to a collaboration between father and son, as it should be. Fathers hand the sovereignty of the throne and crown to their firstborn son. Yahweh clearly denotes Dod as his Bakor, firstborn. He is the Malach, he is the Gibor in this next statement, and therefore he is the one who is being represented. However, since Dod would have had no influence over the spiritual realm during his first life, it is likely that it was addressing the most courageous and capable of Yahweh's human witnesses, those reading and applying the message of this, the 103rd Mizmor. It says, his Malach, his messengers and witnesses, his envoys and representatives, ambassadors and functionaries, those dispatched and deputized to do his bidding, you should choose to convey your support for the benefit of the blessings, Barak, for the marvelous nature of what is being extolled. Of Yahweh, our Elohim, his Gabor, his most courageous and capable of men, those who fight valiantly and prominently for him, his most impactful leaders and influential individuals, who with the ability, authority, and acuity, koach, those with the potential, the resources, the resolve, aptitude, and strength, even determination, should act upon, should engage, should go to work and carry out all that is specified regarding his word by actually listening through the voice, conveying the audible sound of his message, of his word, through what we're doing right now. Mizmor, lyrics to be sung, 103:20. Leading by example, Dod was Yahweh's most accomplished Malach and acclaimed Gabor, speaking to those who would follow in his footsteps. God's prolific messenger and courageous man encouraged us to devote our lives to conveying the benefits associated with being around Yahweh, extolling his virtues while affirming our support. Those who have been blessed with the koach, the acuity and aptitude, the resources and resolve to engage on God's behalf, after listening to his voice, proclaiming the message, are called to do so, and to do so enthusiastically, passionately, boldly. Now, I've been doing this to the extent I'm capable of using the resources at my disposal and with YAHOWAH's support since Towrah in 2001. And while I was never alone because of God's support and the seven spirits, it has been a delight to experience the many ways YAHOWAH has found to contribute, such that we are effective and productive in accomplishing his goals. And first and foremost, understanding his picture from beginning to end, having deduced insights that the world had missed for thousands of years. And I'm convinced that we are actually presenting them as credibly as is possible. Challenge remains on behalf of the listener. The team of YAHOWAH's covenant family has been conscripted by God to support this mission, and they are also devoted and brilliant. But there is not one among them who would claim to be YAHOWAH's Malach or Gibor. These individuals are few and far between. And so to fill out the quota, YAHOWAH is recycling one for the third time, Dode, another Elia from 2,900 years ago, so for a second time, and a third, Yada from the ranks of the Goyim. That's how hard it is to find Gabor, to be that bold in the face of adversity, to knock back down when people question what has become obvious to us. Perhaps I'm a bit over dramatic in that there will likely be more Gabor, but one thing is now certain, that YAHOWAH's Malach messengers and witnesses and his Gabor, courageous and capable men, will always be blessed with the koach, determination to prevail. Our strength, confidence, and fortitude to work with Father and Son comes from listening to their message first and foremost. It continues, as has been the case with Dode's previous two statements, because we love YAHOWAH, we listen to him, we think about everything he has to say, and we're devoted to making the connections to understand. And so we can identify these Saba with the heavenly host, or include that Dode is now addressing a broader spectrum of the covenant family, calling them to action. And since one would be out of Dode's jurisdiction and of no value to those reading or listening to his song, I'm fairly certain that the Messiah is speaking to those serving in the best interests of YAHOWAH and his covenant family. I know many such people. One of his Saba supporters serving him, the willing conscripts who have been mustered and sent out to assist in battle, Kol Saba, all who desire to project his influence and protect his interests, who go forth to fight his foes, including all who act on his behalf by carrying out his instructions. You should choose to convey your support for the blessings and the benefits, and of your own free will extol the marvelous nature while communicating the positive things that are associated with YAHOWAH. Those rendering assistance and serving him, those performing a service and ministering in his interest, engaged to accomplish his will, his desire. Mizmor 103:21. All of his ma'aseh workers accomplishing his every goal, Kol Ma'aseh Hu, everyone who labors on his behalf, expending the energy and resources, you should choose to convey your support for the benefit of extolling the marvelous nature of Yahowah in all of the places his influence is felt and his word pictures are considered. And what that tells me is that while our message to God's people, whether it be conveyed on Facebook, X, or YouTube, or Rumble, is going to resonate with those where God's mashal, his word pictures, are considered, and therefore not with those who will turn a blind eye to them. In other words, our goal is to present the truth, the whole truth, the complete truth. So help us God. And that to those who are intended to hear it, to respond to it, to accept it, to understand it, to engage based upon it, are among those that are influenced by the mashal. The most poignant of one, of course, is the 14th that introduced the Towrah to God's people. My soul, this continues, my consciousness, the essential aspect of my nature, commends and adores, shares the benefits and associated with Yahowah. Mizmor, lyrics to be sung, Psalm 103:22. Do you recall the word that was the first used in this Mizmor, starting the first two sentences, the first two statements? Was the nephesh soul of Dod. And once again, the nephesh soul of Dod is explaining and exclaiming his great love, his adoration for Yahowah. It has ending as it began, with a man who drew the most vivid word pictures of what he would do to restore Israel. And remember, in this very mashal, we are told explicitly that Dod would be the redeemer of his people. And now we have returned to his soul doing this because of his great love for Yahowah. An accomplished speaker, such as Dod, will therefore tell their audience what they're going to tell them. Then they will tell them. And they will summarize what they told them by telling them what they told them. Dod introduced and concluded his psalm explaining the service his nephesh would provide in conjunction with his father Yahowah. And at the end of this Mizmor, he revealed how we can help him achieve his decision to serve his people and our God in this way. No matter what Dod has done, regardless of the merit of his sacrifice, irrespective of the bravery and compassion he has displayed, if his fulfillments of Chag Matzah and Kippurim are not heralded, if we don't do what we are doing here and now boldly, no one will benefit. As powerful and as capable as our Father and his Son have been in doing all of this, of telling us what they were going to do and then doing it to perfect us, to immortalize us, to bring us into their family, fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Makurim in year 4000 Yah in exactly the way that they foretold. Because prior to us understanding that they did this together, no one knew it. And if no one knows it, no one can benefit from it. So as powerful and as capable as Yahowah and Dod are, they are still reliant upon capable witnesses and supportive co-workers to convey the message of the Bereth and the Mikre and of Father and Son, our Messiah and God, to Yisrael and to Yehudim. One of Yah's most strident criticisms of mankind is that very few are aware of what he and his Son have done on our behalf, and most are belligerent against him. Judaism exists to deny almost everything that Dowd accomplished. Christianity exists to steal it all. Islam exists to kill it all. The scope of their work is so seldom considered that if you were to ask a random individual to list the most important accomplishments in the history of the world, most would not recognize either name, Yahowah or Dowd's. Few would know what they achieved or why it's relevant to them. And most, even if you told them that Yahowah and Dowd did these things, are going to hate you for it, are going to demean you for it, are going to call you an idiot for it. And that is ironic, because those who seek to worship God, to claim that they know God, haven't invested the time to listen to anything he has to say about any of this. By contrast, Dowd's words resonate throughout time because he came to know, before he professed his admiration for God, he came to know him. He studied his Torah. He saw his place in it. And he volunteered to do what needed to be done. He was right. He was genuine. He was appreciated. He did his part, and now it's our time, according to this Mizmor, for us to do ours. If the places were vast, where Yahowah was clearly known, and if his influence was felt by many, what a wonderful world it would be. And therefore, our mission is to share the story of Father and Son with those interested in investing their lives and their time to read the books of Yada Yahowah, to listen to the Yahowah blog, as opposed to just vomit all over the truth. Now, that said, Dowd did not write, and we should not speak to the world at large. That is not our mission. There is no reason to strain our voices or dissipate our effect or influence. We seek to convey God's testimony to receptive ears and open minds. And so now it is important for us to run through this psalm once again, from beginning to end, with minimal interruption, so that you can know that it was about Dowd, and that Dowd is the man who worked with his father Yahowah to redeem and reconcile the relationship with his people. He did this for us, and yet there isn't one in a million humans that acknowledge what he has done. It begins with this introduction, the 103rd Psalm, or Mizmor. This is for Dowd. It is to Dowd, concerning the beloved and about approaching through Dowd. My soul, my consciousness, the essential aspect of my persona, which can be observant and responsive, which conveys my personality, character, and attributes, as well as my experiences, Nefesh Ani. You have chosen to appreciate and acclaim, sharing the benefits of the association with you, Yahowah, along with that which is within me, through and accompanied by his set-apart name. 1031. My soul, your desire is to commend and adore, being thankful for the benefit of sharing the blessings of the association with Yahowah. You will never overlook, you will never ignore, you will not forget any of his accomplishments and resulting benefits. Who forgives? Who removes the culpability from consideration so as to provide a pardon from all of your errant thinking, wrongdoing, erroneous statements, and distorted opinions? And who promotes restoration for everything which incapacitates and sickens you, all of your diseases and disabilities? Who is the kinsman redeemer who delivers your life, the family member paying the price for you to live, keeping you from the dungeonous slime pit of corruption? Who envelops and crowns you in loyal love, steadfast devotion, and unfailing kindness, in addition to compassion and mercy? Who is abundantly satisfying with that which is beneficial and good, highly desirable for you, beautifully adorning you? She, on her own initiative, restores and renews, becoming similar to the soaring eagle of your youth as children. Yahweh does what is right, engaging honestly and fairly, showing good judgment, and executing judgment on behalf of all who are unjustly exploited, defrauded, and deceived. He has made known Yada and revealed his ways to Moshe through his interactions with the children of Yisrael. Yahweh is compassionate and merciful, long-suffering and loyal, slow to anger, and abounding in love, overwhelmingly kind and steadfastly loyal. But he will not continually quarrel with someone, subjecting his preeminence to unending arguments, nor will he eternally serve as a frustrated caretaker, tending to those who displease him, maintaining the status quo as a disappointed and irritated observer, bearing tremendous resentment. Psalm 103:9. It is not according to the ways we are misled and are misleading, incurring guilt, that he acts or that he engages with us, nor according to our errant thinking, our erroneous statements, or invalid opinions, that he deals with us. Indeed, for just as the heavens and the spiritual realm are elevated in scale and dimensions beyond our comprehension, above and beyond the material realm, so too is his steadfast and enduring love, his unfailing generosity and mercy towards those who respect and revere him. As far as the sunrise in the east is from the incinerating light, it is from the setting sun to the west where darkness follows. So far removed from us are the revolting and rebellious behaviors that have been taken away. As a father shows tender affection and genuine love for children, Yahweh genuinely loves and favors those who respect him. It is for certain he is cognizant of our inclinations and frame of reference, even the purpose for which we were created, remembering that we are indeed quite literally comprised of naturally occurring earthen matter. Mortal men's days are like an abode of dried grass, like the flowery nature of an engraved plaque on a shining memorial in the open and broad way. It therefore reflects the light and the scene around it. Yet truthfully, when the spirit passes over it, then it is no more, and its place is no longer recognizable or even remembered. By contrast, the steadfast and enduring love, the unfailing generosity and mercy of Yahweh, it is forever, enduring eternally without end for those who respect and revere him. with his vindication and righteousness on behalf of his children's children, for those who observe his covenant and who remember to act upon and engage in his directions and instructions. Yahweh has prepared and established his throne in the spiritual realm of the heavens and with his sovereign realm, serving as a proverb, revealing what he and his heaven is like, drawing pictures with words, revealing everything. His Malach messengers and witnesses, you should choose to convey your support for the benefit of Yahweh. His Gabor, his most courageous and capable of men, who fight valiantly and prominently for him, his most impactful and influential individuals, those with the ability, the authority, and acuity, the aptitude, resources, and resolve, should act upon and engage by carrying out his word, by actually listening through the voice conveying this audible sound of his message to the call of Yahweh. Everyone of his Saba, his supporters serving him, the willing conscripts who have been mustered and sent out to assist in this battle, you should choose to convey your support for the benefit of Yahweh. Those rendering assistance and serving him should engage to accomplish his will. All of his Ma'aseh workers pursuing his goals, those striving to fulfill God's agenda, you should choose to convey your support for the benefits and the blessings offered by Yahweh in all of the places, in every home, dwelling site, and in every direction that his influence is felt and his mashal word pictures are considered. My soul commends and adores, having chosen to appreciate and acclaim its association with Yahweh. Mizmor, lyrics to sing, Psalm 103, 1 through 22. He has done his part brilliantly. And now it is time for us to serve him in this way, doing so as brilliantly as we are able. Thank you for listening to this, the conclusion of the 103rd Mizmor, as part of the Yahowah blog as the sun sets here in the Virgin Islands. I am your host, Craig Winn, and this has been the Yahowah blog.